Got 7 in the waiting room so far. So one of these people I saw was actually kind of past client of Sam's. I'm curious if he says anything.
One of them, you said, is a past client of Sam's.
Yeah, well, not really a past client. We were working on a DSCR refi for him, but him and his wife were in Italy, and some issue we ran into. I guess we decided to wait until they get back into the States before we finish the process. So,
What's
good to
their
have
name?
him. His name is Correa.
Okay.
Rick Correa. I know they on here they're going to be S&S Private Equity.
Okay, got it.
All right, wait for Kyle to get back on here.
Hey Cam, you got an extra digit in my NMLS number, by the way.
1985 198-95013. Oh, it's okay. Hopefully we don't have anybody from the consumer access looking at us. All right, guys. I'm gonna open it up. All right.
Sounds good.
All right. Sorry, my checklist. Disable waiting room. Admit all. All right, everyone. Good evening. Good evening. We're gonna give it a minute or two to let everybody actually join the room. If anybody's got any questions to start off, you can go ahead and throw it in the chat. We'll be happy to answer.
Yeah, guys, any questions that you have while the presentation's going on, just feel free to throw them in the chat, and we'll try to answer any of those questions as we can. This is kind of like a high level overview, so to speak. So we won't cover every single thing that you have, but this is just an idea to give you as much information as possible at a glance, and then we can set up a one-on-one and have some more specifics at that time.
All right. Looks like everybody that was in the waiting room is now in. So good evening, everyone. My name's Cam O'Connell. I'm a local loan officer here with My Easy Mortgage. We know everyone's super busy this week with Thanksgiving. It's only a couple days away, so we want to say thank you for joining us tonight. I know time is sparing, and especially these last few days leading up to it. But tonight we're going to cover a few topics that's going to hopefully educate you guys on how to either start your real estate portfolio or grow whatever portfolio you already have. I've got a couple speakers here. First off, Kyle Miller, you want to go ahead and introduce yourself?
Hi guys, my name is Kyle Miller. I'm a loan officer with My Easy Mortgage. A little bit about me. I'm one of the few born and raised Floridians here. Father of 2, been in this industry since 2006. And just excited to hopefully get some of you guys on your journey to some investment properties.
Awesome. I also have a Charles Roundtree for you guys. Charles, you want to talk a little bit about yourself?
Sure. Good evening, everybody. Appreciate you taking time out of your schedules to join us, and hope that you find our topics tonight to be of value add. As Cam said, my name is Charles Roundtree. I am the broker and owner of Insta Real Estate Solutions located here in Tampa, Florida. And my portion of the presentation tonight will be to help guide you and to give you some tools that will be at your fingertips so that you can identify actual investment properties that are cash flowing and very quickly determine whether or not they are cash positive. So we'll go through some slides regarding that at a high level, and then I'll get down to the grassroots ground level with you to put these tools in your hands so that you can go to work, identify the properties that you want to purchase before you reach out to these guys for your loan needs on the property. So we look forward to chatting with you. And as Cam and Kyle both said in the intro, any questions along the way, dump those in the chat so that as we go through and get to the Q&A portion, we can come back to those and answer any questions you might have.
Awesome, awesome. And some of you guys are going to have some really specific questions, I can already tell. If you have anything super specific, I just put a booking link in the chat box. Go ahead and book a time with one of us. We can, get one-on-one with you. It doesn't cost you anything, but it'll give you a good idea and some good, hopefully, some knowledge we can spread out for you. But without any more chit chat, we have Kyle's portion here. You want to go ahead and take it away?
We'll start with Chuck. Yeah.
Sorry, Charles. I'm sorry.
Yep, no problem at all. Go ahead and get to that first screen. So as Cam's loading this, there's about 6 or 7 slides here. I won't get caught up in the weeds going through these bullet by bullet with you, but the reason for these slides is an overlay to what I'm going to show you in just a moment, which is the actual tool. But I'm a firm believer in that having a tool that does work and work very well. You also want to know how to calculate this stuff yourself and how the tool is working, behind the scenes to actually calculate the capitalization rate, or otherwise known as your return on investment. So to get a copy of this particular pitch deck or presentation, we're happy to email it to you. As Cam mentioned in the link that he's already provided, just book a session with us, give us a quick 15 minutes of your time. In exchange for that, we're happy to send this out to you so that you have it in your hands and you can then know how these calculations are actually generated. So the next few slides we go through, I'm going to be talking very high level. You're going to see a lot of analytics, a lot of numbers and calculations on these slides. They're there for a reason. They're very important. Don't misunderstand my kind of glossing through the slides. Because I want to get you to a more substantive, fundamental, or practical use application. But I want you to see the high level. I want you to know exactly what's gone into the calculations so that you can use it with confidence and understand the back end of it and how we have formulated this. So with that said, calculating a cap rate, if not knowing the participants on the phone call, some of you may be very experienced and savvy investors who own multiple investment properties already, while others, maybe you don't own any and you're just scratching the surface seeking to acquire your first property. But nevertheless, capitalization rate is a very important number in the world of investing in real estate. You want to know what that cap rate is. And it's used ultimately to back into a value. So you're looking at the high level. How much am I paying for the property? What are my expenses in this property? What is my income in the property? And then therefore, what is my profit? So that's what we're looking at in terms of a capitalization rate. And we'll move to the next slide and start walking you through some examples. And again, I'm not going to go line by line, but I want you to see this. This particular example is a triplex in Holiday, Florida. You can see that those 3 units each rent for $550. You can go through the expenses there of what the landlord pays for, which are, water in this case, lawn care, taxes, and insurance. Next slide, please, Cam. So you look at the calculations on that. And again, I'm not going to bore you with the details because I'm going to take you to a very easy calculator that you can plug this information into, and it'll very quickly spit out a result for you. But you can see by running through the numbers and the math on this, you annualize these numbers. Next slide, please. So with those numbers that we've just calculated on the prior slide, you're now able to look at where are my cap rates based upon purchase price and my income. The income is fixed right now, right? Where do I need to purchase the property at in order to generate a capitalization rate of X, being 10%, 8%, 12%? Next slide, please. Your monthly payment, this is the breakdown for your carrying cost, right? So you're looking at what are my carrying costs on the property on a monthly basis. Now you're looking at your ROI. And again, I'm moving through this very fast for a reason. It'll make sense. Just follow along with me. I'm giving you this again, very high level. The importance behind these slides is so that you then have the backdrop. You then have the tool so that you can calculate these manually if you so desire. But if you don't want to calculate it manually, you'll then use the tool that I'm going to show you in just a moment. So here's your ROI based on those. Based on your loan balance, the net proceeds, you factor in. Here's your tax benefits. Don't become a CPA. I will start with that. Don't become your own CPA. Hire an accountant. Specifically an accountant who specializes in investment real estate. There are a lot of tax write-offs in the world of real estate investment that I would shudder to say most CPAs do not know unless they specialize in investment real estate. It's not on here specifically, but I would also tell you to hitch your cart to the right real estate agent, real estate brokerage. Obviously we're here to service your needs, but if you've got somebody in mind, make sure that somebody else in mind, I should say, make sure that you interview and vet them thoroughly so that you know they have an in-depth knowledge and in-depth understanding of how to navigate you through to a profitable investment. I've seen it far too many times, and especially with new investors, they come into the world of real estate investing, they buy their first property, and they're underwater year one, and they're scratching their head asking the question why, and then they're selling the property in year two because they're losing money. That's not the right approach. I would make sure that you hitch your cart to the right horse in that respect with regards to real estate agents and brokerages. Next slide, please. So we're going to show you in this slide here, closing thoughts. We're going to show you this. I'm going to show you how to look at a piece of property literally as an investment. I'm going to show you how to perform the analysis, and I'm going to give you the access. I'm going to give you the keys to the castle, literally, so that within a matter of 5 minutes per property, that is, within a matter of 5 minutes, you can literally look at a property, extrapolate the information that you need, plug it into our calculator, and you can at a high level very quickly ascertain whether or not that property is even worth your time to go and look at, open the door for dialogue, negotiations, potential offers, etc. Rather than what most people unfortunately end up doing, which is going out, pounding the pavement, looking at properties, falling in love with the property because it looks good, it's something that they think is a good deal. They make a blind offer that they have no idea what the ROI or capitalization rate will be. They get the property they want, and then, as I said before, they find out they're losing money. So we're gonna reverse engineer that for you and show you how to actually back into the numbers before you ever even go look at the property. So with that, Cam, if I can share my screen, I'd like to show these lovely folks what we're talking about. Can I take control now, Cam?
You got it, all yours.
Okay, here we go. Let's give this a shot. All right. So you should see my home screen right now. Do you see that?
Yes, sir.
All right. So let me pull this up. I'm going to send a link out in the group chat right now. Give me just a moment here. This link I'm going to save it for future reference. I've just sent a link to our link tree, and that link is going to take you to this page here that I'm going to pull up on my screen. It's going to bring you here. Let me just slide this down so I can see my screen a little better. Okay, so it's going to bring you here, and within this screen, there are a lot of different links that you're welcome to navigate and click through, getting to know more about our company, myself as an individual, etc. But for the purpose of this exercise, the most important link is going to be right here where it says multifamily property, investment search, okay? And so you're going to click on this link. And when you click on this link, it's going to take you to our website. And when you arrive at our website, you'll have real-time access to the MLS. This is connected in real time. It's not a refresh like most websites, what we call ancillary web crawlers. That's the Zillow, Realtor.com, Trulia, those ancillary web crawlers. If you're lucky, they refresh every 24 hours. This is real time. It updates every 5 minutes. And so from here, what you're looking at is a pre-saved search for properties that are currently tenant occupied. You can come in here, you can refine this search and drill down to as micro of a level as you desire. Specifically, when you're looking here, you want to be in the multi-residential. That constitutes more than one door. That's an income producing property. And in doing so, you can set your parameters on price, bedrooms. You can, to the left here, obviously, select your counties. If it's a zip code, a specific city, subdivision, you can literally drill down to as micro level as you desire. So having said that, I'm going to go back to the pre-saved search, and I'm going to show you a couple of things here. So this one here that's located in Tampa looks like a good pick. I'm going to go ahead and click upon this one to see what we're working with. We're working with a duplex. We can see it's been on the market for 4 days. They're asking just under $300,000. 2 bedrooms. That means there's a 1 bedroom, 1 bath on each side. So this is 2 1-1s. You'll see the property description here, obviously, but the substantive part for this exercise is price, property taxes, annual gross income. Those are the numbers we want to work with for this exercise. So as we do so, I'm going to open a separate window, and I'm going to go to our website, which is instarealestatesolutions.com. And with the drop-down menu here, I'm going to select Insta Calculator. And I just want to pause for a second, Cam, and ask you and Kyle, I'm moving around pretty fast on my computer. Is the buffering rate on your end?
No, you're good.
It's good. Okay. So you're gonna click on Insta Calculator. So what this is going to allow you to do now is to take the analytics from this listing, this prospective property that we've just randomly clicked upon, right? In your case, you're going to set up your own customized search based upon your desired search criteria. And you're going to look at prospective properties that meet that criteria. But for this illustration, we're going to take this list price of $299,900 and we're going to plug it in here. Okay. We're going to, and this is where Kyle's and Cam's expertise is going to come in a few moments. We're going to talk about the loans that are associated with these income producing properties, but it's called a DSCR loan. They'll explain that. It's a discretionary income loan that allows you to qualify for the purchase based upon the income that property is producing. They're typically around 20% down payment loans, and the interest rates currently are hovering around 8% on these loans. Remember, I want to pause and preface something here. Some of us, myself included, are old enough, in my late 40s now, but we're old enough to remember years gone by when there have been periods of higher interest rates, periods of housing correction or softening. And if I had it all to do over again, I would have been buying everything I could get my hands on during those periods of time, because there has never been a season in my adult life, looking back, where when people were running out of what I call the burning building, that I should not have been running into it. So I'm in this juncture, what I'm describing to you now, I am one of the investors myself. I'm running into the burning building as people are running out. They're screaming, the building's on fire, interest rates are high, the market is softening. And I'm saying, yep, I've seen this before. I'm not going to pretend to have a crystal ball, but I have seen history rhyme, and I can comfortably say that I've never seen rents go down. So if I can buy a property that's positive cash flowing today, the likelihood is that it's going to be cash flowing even more so 5 years from now. So With interest rates being what they are, don't be afraid of that. Borrow money today so that as interest rates at 8%, 7.5%, whatever that number is, so that as the ebb and flow of the economy occurs and the Fed starts to lower the overnight rate, rates will soften. You can always refinance at a later date to get a lower rate. If it's positive cash flowing today at 8%, what do you think it's going to do 5 years from now at 6% or at 5.5%? It's going to be cash flowing even more. So I emphasize that because there's so many people in this market that are uneducated these days that look at interest rates, that look at, you know, what they think they have it all figured out. I've seen this show before. I didn't capitalize upon it the first 2 times. I bought properties along the way, but now I'm looking at this as a real opportunity. So that said, we're using a loan on this $299,900 purchase. Let me put that in there. There we go. We're going to take a loan out. We're going to put 20% down. The interest rate is 8%, amortized over 30 years. Closing cost approximately 1% to the borrower. We're going to assume the property does not currently need any repairs for this illustration. Although if your example in real life does need repairs, you would simply click yes, and you would fill this information out with your estimated repair costs. In this case, we do not need repairs. Our property taxes, as you scroll down on that property, you'll see our $1,313 a year current property taxes. We'll plug that into our estimation. And you may want to give yourself, you know, a buffer. Maybe you want to say it's $1,500, right? Say it's $1,500 just for illustration's sake. Now we're looking at the annual gross income. So it's kicking out $1,200 a month per door. So it's $24,000 per year per door. So it's kicking out a total of $48,000 a year. Now we go back to the calculator. We scroll up here to the top. We want the monthly rent. Remember, it's 2 doors at $1,200 each. So we're $2,400 per month rather. We're going to assume that we're escalating the rent by approximately 3% per year. A vacancy rate, this particular property is currently 100% tenant occupied. If you're hiring a property manager, you would fill that in. If you're managing it yourself, it would be 0. We come back down here. We already plugged our property taxes in. Our insurance, this is an interesting dynamic. All of us in Florida, I think I speak for everyone on this call, we've had some increase in our homeowners insurance policies. Investment properties are no different. However, there is more competition. There's other, I would say, niche insurance products that you can acquire. The company that I use, it's not a plug, it's who I use, and I'll share it with you. It's called NREIG, National Real Estate Investment Group. That's a company that they're specific in what they write. They won't write everything, but when you can get them to insure your investment property, it's substantially less than your traditional carriers with all of the same coverages. This particular property, I feel confident in knowing that they would insure this for approximately $1,800 a year. You're going to pay about $900 a unit on this particular property. That's just, you'll have to trust me. That's just from my experience with that particular insurance company. There's no HOA associated. There aren't any maintenance fees. We're going to assume, again, not knowing what we don't know in the moment, that there are no other costs. We're going to hold this property for 10 years. The cost to sell it is going to be approximately 8%. What that's capturing is your real estate commissions you're going to pay on the buyer side and the seller side, because as the seller, you're going to pay both sides of the commission here in Florida. And then you're going to have your closing costs with title and tax stamps on the deed, etc. So now we're going to calculate this based on these numbers we've just quickly put into the system, and it's going to spit out the results. So for the 10-year period that you're invested, your internal rate of return, that's what IRR stands for, is almost 18% per year. The total profit on this property when you sell it is going to be $178,000. That's your profit. You bought it for $299,900. You will have collected rental income during that 10-year period of over $330,000. Your mortgage payments over that period will have been $211,000. total expenses, you see the math breaking down here. So I started with those more mundane slides with the analytics of how these numbers are calculated, so that if you are, if you're one of those folks that likes to get the details behind the numbers, you know how these are calculated. If you're not, then you'll just use the calculator and trust the process that it works. But I want you to have both. Not knowing all of you individually, I want you to be able to look at it from both angles. So in this particular case, your capitalization rate is 8.5%. It's a solid cap rate in this market, especially. When I say this market, meaning that home values are still high, although interest rates are going up. It's a solid cap rate. We're buying properties in the present moment of 5 to 7%. Ideally, in the glory days, 10 to 12% capitalization rate. That's your high water mark. That's what you would love to have all day. But to get your feet wet, if you can capture an 8%, I would tell you, if you can even capture a 6% that is positive cash flowing, it's worth your effort. It's worth your time. Just make sure it doesn't have a lot of deferred maintenance and doesn't need a lot of repair. So this is your 10-year invested period. This shows you at a high level the details of that. Then you say, okay, what about my first year? Because that's the real crucible. Getting through that first year, that's when you're really getting to know whether or not you made a sound or solid financial decision. This shows you at a quick glance. Here's your monthly and annualized income. Here's your monthly and annualized mortgage payment. Here's your monthly and annualized property taxes, your insurance, and here's your monthly and annualized cash flow. And you say, $365 a month in my pocket. Why would I do that? Well, the answer is because it's $365 of positive cash flow. It's what I affectionately refer to as mailbox money. You're taking your money, you're putting it to work to gain 8.5% interest. You tell me what bank you could have put your 20% down payment into that is going to pay you 8.5% interest. It doesn't exist. This gives you a positive cash flow of $365 a month. Over time, interest rates come down, you refinance, your cash flow goes up. Over time, your rent increases. I used a 3%. I mean, some people's rent over the last 2 years has gone up, 25, 30%. It's insane, but it's what's happening. The point is, as the landlord, you're going to raise rent over time. Your cash flow is going to increase. This is your worst case scenario. You're starting at ground zero, year one, making $365 a month. It's a good proposition to make. Then it shows you your net operating income, obviously, so you can see from a tax perspective what the implication might be. As you scroll down a bit further, you'll see the full breakdown over time. I personally like this because owning multiple rental properties, it allows me on a per property basis to time my exit, because for me personally, there is a gestation period. Some people buy rental properties and they never sell them. I've got properties that I've bought, obviously, and I'll hold and pass along to my son. But there are some properties that have a shelf life. They have a life expectancy, and I earmark those, and I want to track what my tax implications are. So that's a conversation I'm happy to have in private with any of you, so that I can share those details with you and how that works. But this helps you get there. So this shows you year 1 through 10. It shows you the annual income, and you say, well, why is this number increasing? This number is increasing based upon the appreciation or the increase that I put in of 3% per year. So you can see year 1, my annual income is 28.8. By year 10, it's grossing 37.5, right? My mortgage payment throughout that period of time, my expenses, my cash flow, my cash on cash return, you can see what that does over the 10-year period. The equity that I have accumulated in that property over time. And then once I sell it, this is the cash I would receive year over year, right? So if I sell this property in year 10, this is going to be my cash, the cash in my pocket. So I will have collected rent for 10 years, and then I will parlay that, sell the property, and have equity on the backside that I'm capturing as well. That's the unrealized gain, obviously, until you sell it. Something else, I don't know if Kyle and Cameron will touch on this, but as you go through this, I'll just generically refer to it as a gestation period of owning an investment property. At any time, essentially from year 3 and beyond, you should have enough equity in the property that you can then take a home equity line of credit out. That's a real game changer when you can leverage equity in your first investment property to then parlay that into your subsequent or second investment purchase. And that's the rinse and repeat exercise that allows people to grow their portfolio without having to come to the table with a Brinks truck full of their own cash. You start small and then you scale it and grow it over time. And yes, by starting small, I'll go up here to this literal example. That small is a $365 positive cash flow in your pocket. It's not going to change your life. Maybe it's a light bill, maybe it's an electric bill, maybe it's a car payment, it's something. It's going to grow over time. The point is to get in while you can, while you qualify on the loan products that they're going to share with you, because these types of loans, they're not offered all the time. Lenders get creative during seasons like this with high interest rates because lenders don't make money unless they're lending money. So when their loan volume slows down, they start to get creative and they offer products like this that we have at our fingertips now that allow investors like you and I to enter the market, take the chance, but I'm putting tools in your hands now that it's not a blind chance, it's a targeted chance. You have full control to search the inventory, and you can go literally into any one of these properties and those analytics. I just pulled one in Bradenton randomly. You can see how long it's been on market. You can see what year it was built, obviously your square footage, all of that stuff you can find on any of those, what I called ancillary web crawlers. What you can't find are all of the analytics with regards to property taxes, revenue that's being generated off that property, etc. Let me find one more. Let's see if this one is tenant occupied. No, that one is not. So you see that's missing. The revenue is missing here. That's because the listing agent did not put that data into the MLS. I want to see I won't waste too much time, but I want to see if there's another one here. This one's income producing, it says. Let's see if they put the numbers in here. So this one, they've put no information. We'd have to make the phone calls to find out how much they're offering. If you hear my dogs in the background, I apologize. I've got 2 lap dogs that think they're Rottweilers. Apparently, Amazon Prime just delivered something to the front door, so I apologize if you can hear my dogs barking. Let's see if this one has. So this is a big one here. It's 1.9. Yeah, they don't have the revenue listed on this one either. So in these instances, these ones that I'm clicking upon, it would require a quick phone call, which we would be happy to make, obviously, to mine for that data. In most instances, as you scroll through, you'll see more of what I showed you in the first place. It's going to show you an annual gross income. The MLS that we're pulling from real time. If the listing agent did not input data, we're not going to be able to capture that data. So as you look through there and you start to ascertain properties that you're interested in, if you come across one that looks promising, but it doesn't have the annual gross income, call us, text us, email us, whatever's most convenient for you. We can get that information literally in a matter of minutes just by making a quick phone call to the seller's agent, getting our hands on the numbers that you need to ultimately calculate the scenario that we just walked through. I've probably gone way too long and too in depth at, for the evening, but just know that we're here for you. We'll help you quarterback any investment purchase that you desire. We're here to help educate you, help usher the process along, make you feel more comfortable, make you feel equipped ultimately to make the decision confidently so that you're not walking into this blindly. That's the worst thing that any real estate agent can do to a person. I've seen it happen far too many times. Don't let it happen to you. And I can assure you that if you trust us to represent you in the process, we'll make it a sound investment for you, one that you're going to be profitable with. Cam, with that, I'll stop sharing my screen and I'll turn it back over to you. Again, thank you everybody for your time. We greatly appreciate it. And I wish everyone a happy Thanksgiving.
Thanks, Chuck.
All right, guys, give me just 1 second to start sharing my screen again. Does anybody have any questions out there? I haven't seen anything pop up in the chat, but you guys are more than welcome to go ahead and take a second to pop any questions you have in there.
And then any questions that you guys come up with right now for Chuck, we'll be able to answer those at the end. We'll kind of keep it moving too a little bit here so we can kind of get through. So this is my section. So we're going to talk about loan programs and different options. The first thing is I just wanted to touch base again with like what Chuck said and how this is like a detailed overview. So obviously there are a ton of specifics when it comes to any of these types of loans and scenarios and variables that are going to be inside of there. The idea is to give you that broad overview of it. And then let's get together and go over specifics on any scenarios that you may have, even if they're just hypothetical. This is how you start the process of figuring out if this is something that's going to work for you. All right. So first off, so some of the loans that we're going to go over. We're going to go over a debt service coverage ratio or a DSCR, bank statement loans, and a no ratio or community loans. So the first thing is as what you're going to discover as most investors, you're going to become what we would call a self-employed person. So you're going to file your own taxes. You may have a W-2 9-to-5 job, but you're going to start having more income coming in on the real estate side and more expenses, more write-offs, etc. That being said, I myself am self-employed, as so is Chuck and Cam. I can probably speak for them on their behalf and let you know that they write off everything that they legally can for their business. It's a no-brainer. So we don't want to spend any more money than we have to. We want to save our money so we can put it back into our business and we can create more profit. Okay. So that being said, as most lenders, obviously they want to make sure that you can pay back the debt, so the bill. So the way that it's set up is they're going to calculate your incomes. Typical manners are through W-2s, tax returns, pay stubs, et cetera, et cetera. So a lot of times with self-employed borrowers is we want to look outside of that, because we know if we look at a tax, your actual taxes after your write-offs, is there's a lot of investors and a lot of business owners out there that show losses. So obviously banks are not willing to lend you money if it looks like you don't make any money. Next slide, Cam. So the first one we're going to start with, and the reason that I'm starting with this one first is because we've seen a huge increase in this type of loan in the last year or two. It's something that's it's new-ish on the market, and a lot of people are taking advantage of it. So DSCR is for debt service coverage ratio. The basics of what it is if your rental payment is equal to your principal, interest, and taxes and insurance on the property, then you qualify, because they're saying that the rental income coming in offsets the mortgage. They're going to you're going to have to, cover the down payment and see some assets, et cetera, but that's all that you need in order to qualify, which in our business is huge. That makes it super simple. Next slide, Cam. All right, so basically, like I just said, that's breaking it down. So as long as the rental income is equal to or close enough to, so we even have lenders that will go down to 80%. So I'm going to make up some numbers here to make math simple. Let's say you have $1,000 principal, interest, and taxes and insurance payment on your property. If your rental income is $800 a month, you would actually still qualify for this loan, even though technically you're losing $200 a month. So even if your rent at this point isn't where it should be, there's still options. Next slide, Cam. How is DSCR different? So basically it's documenting the cash flow of the property, so the rental income. The lender's not worried about your taxes, your pay stubs. We don't need any of that. There is no debt to income calculation because they're not taking into any other of your debt expenses. The only thing that they're looking at is the specific property versus the specific rental income. And this is a business type loan, so it doesn't follow like TRID. Next slide. All right, so this is just a very, very basic breakdown. Rental income, 5,000 a month, loan amount, monthly rental income, your DSCR, you add up your expenses as long as they are equal to or over than what your payment is, then you are qualified. So all DSCR products are investor business only loans. So the borrower must provide proof that you have a primary residence now. So you have to currently own a property. So that way that they're keeping out anybody who, may say that they're buying it as an investment, then they want to move in and make it their primary. It's significantly harder for somebody to be evicted out of a primary residence versus a rental, which is the main reason why the lender does that. So these loans are only for investment, no primary residence whatsoever. Next slide. So again, same thing, borrowers, families can never live there. It has to be investment properties only. Cash out proceeds must be used for the business purposes. You wouldn't pull out, cash out of a property to go buy yourself a new Ferrari, but you're pulling the funds out for business purposes, whether it's putting it back into the property for upkeep or maintenance or repairs, or even if it's for, purchasing that additional property. So that's where the key to investing comes in, is when you can start taking the equity out of the properties that you've built equity in and using that equity to purchase the next one. So that way you're not bringing your cash to the table anymore. You're purely spending equity. Next slide. So what type of borrowers are going to be best for this? So these are people like you guys. So these are going to be self-employed people, investors, people who aren't going to be able to go the traditional route of showing you a tax return and pay stub. Next slide. So good borrowers for these types of loans, these are going to be real estate investors, foreign nationals, or self-employed borrowers, retired borrowers who are on a fixed income, borrowers that may have changed their pay structure. Let's say you've gone from a W-2 to a 1099, and the lender wants to see a couple of years of that history and you don't have it. Now you could qualify using this type of program. Next slide. All right, so the way that they come up with income to calculate these. So if it's a purchase, they're going to use the income from the 1007, which is when the appraisal is done, they're going to give you what the market rent is of that property. If it is a refinance, whether it's vacant or undocumented rental income, then again, we're going to use from the appraisal to decide what the rental market is. And then if it is a refinance and it's occupied, so if you have a lease in place, et cetera, lesser of the lease of your payment. So as long as that rental payment coming in is offsetting that PITI, you are good to go. Next slide, Cam. Another great benefit of DSCR loans and a lot of the other loan programs we offer is they do offer interest-only options. So the main benefit of an interest-only option is you're keeping your payments low. So you only have to qualify based off of that interest-only payment. So that way it can bring it down if you need to. That way you can work on lowering that monthly cost so that your DSCR ratio qualifies. And then most investors, like Chuck said, especially if your property has a shelf life on it, is they don't necessarily care about paying off this loan. They're in it for the monthly cash flow and for selling the property at the end, and that's it. There's a million ways to skin a cat, and everybody has a different opinion. I would tell you to listen to someone like Charles, who's been in that type of industry and has a lot of specific examples that they've done themselves that they can give you. That's where you're going to gain the most knowledge of which way to go with those. Next slide, Cam. All right, so for assets, so for a DSCR type loan, is they're typically want us to see 12 months of assets. These are the eligible assets that the lender will consider assets. So obviously, any money you have sitting in bank, credit union, brokerage, stocks, bonds, mutual funds, vested retirement accounts, business funds, cash out proceeds. So this is good. So like, let's say we're refinancing a property that you already own and pulling some cash out. You can actually use those cash out proceeds as an asset, which is huge. Any other cash value of life insurance, et cetera, et cetera. Basically, any form of money that we can document and source, they will normally use as an asset. Next slide. Ineligible assets. So basically, anything that we can't document or source is not going to work. Non-vested restricted stock accounts, assets producing income, or assets that are used in the income calculations. Cryptocurrency, if you have undocumented cash, mattress money, things of that nature, those just aren't going to work. Next slide. All right, so the DSCR is probably the most common, and the reason for that being is it's also the less documentation needed a lot of times. So especially if it's a property that is already owned, it already has a lease intact, it makes life super simple for you as the investor to qualify. Now, there are a ton of other options too. A big one is a bank statement loan. So basically what the lender is saying with a bank statement loan is they're looking at your cash flow coming in to your business, and they will typically give you 50% of those deposits. They will consider that as income to the property. There are a couple of variables depending on some specifics, but that is the golden rule. And a lot of times you can even get that reduced if you need that to be, if you need a higher number with a letter from your CPA, as long as it makes sense. But these are great loans as well. So let's say you didn't qualify for the DSCR, but your bank statements look good. This can actually be a slightly better loan for you in some situations because it can actually come with a slightly lower down payment. So this is another one of the investment options that we have. Now, these are good for all types of properties. So this can be your primary residence, your second home, or your investment. So this will work for all of them. All right, next one, community loan / ninja. So back in the day, this used to be called a ninja loan, like a no income, no job, no asset loan. So basically what the lender used to do is if your credit was good enough and you were putting down enough down payment, they say, hey, your credit's great, you pay all your bills on time, you must know what you're doing, is we believe whatever you say, and they would qualify you in loan. So these loans kind of disappeared back in 2008, 2009. That was the collapse where a lot of that went away. These loans started coming back. They're a little bit more restricted, but basically what they're looking for is, as long as this is going to be either a primary residence or a second home, you're going to put down that 20% down payment and you have a high enough credit score. Is we don't list any job on the application, no income, there's nothing listed. So there's nothing for them to audit, there's nothing for them to write. As long as your credit score meets where we want, your down payment, we can track your funds, then you qualify. These are exceptional loans. The only downside, this is not a true investor loan. So this is a primary residence or second home. So if you are buying your first investment property, the qualifications for what a lender would consider to be a second home is that you just have to have the ability to spend 2 weeks out of the year there. So if you were looking to buy something like for, let's say, an Airbnb or something like that, where it's not going to be necessarily a long-term rental, could be a weekly, monthly rental, etc. As long as you have the ability and to be there with 2 weeks out of the year, is then technically it can be a second home, and second homes can produce income as well. Next slide, Kim. All right, closing thoughts. So I know we went over a lot of information. It gets super detailed and it can get very minute. The idea here is really we're just wanting to get your eyes open to what's out there and what possibilities of loan options are out there. You know, you don't have to go and buy your first investment property with all cash, you know, and you don't have to spend, like you saw from Chuck's quick, just going through listings and plugging these into his calculator and getting numbers. You don't even necessarily have to spend a huge amount of time on this. You know, what you need to do is you need to get the education. You start with us. Highly recommend jumping on a one-on-one call, especially if it's a first time that you're investing in a property. It's a good time to start asking questions. You don't know what you don't know. Perfect example for this scenario is, speaking of DSCR. So I have a client who during the pandemic reached out, was looking to refinance one of his properties. He is an investor who typically uses a lot of private money or hard money loans. They're fast, they're easy. You're going to pay a high rate for them. And it's a little bit of a larger down payment, so to speak. But the interest rate on those are typically 10 to 12% interest only, et cetera, et cetera. They're not amazing loans, but the investors don't care because they need to be able to get in, get their property quick, and they know that they can always refinance it and to work on to bring those costs down. So they care about being able to get into the property as fast as possible, especially in the market that we were just in. So I got a call from a friend of a friend who connected me with this guy. Had 50 properties in the Pinellas area that he's been purchasing over the last 5 years, very similar to this method. Well, we started going down the rabbit hole of, you know, what loans he used, and I started telling him about DSCR. He had no idea what I was even talking about. After explaining to him what it was, and at the time when we started doing this in 2020, that was when the interest rates were stupidly low. I mean, conventional rates were still in the twos. We were putting his DSCR loans in the fours. Now, this is a guy who has a multi-million-dollar real estate portfolio who's been investing for quite some time. But it just goes to show you, you don't know what you don't know. If you can think about how many of his properties that he was paying 10% interest only on, and then we took him to, at the time, rates were in the fives for these types of loans. We took him to fives on, I think, 30 different properties. He doesn't have any kids yet, but my feeling is if he has a boy, he's going to name him Kyle, because the amount of money that we were able to save him is astronomical. So you don't necessarily have to know everything from the start. I mean, this guy built a huge portfolio with not knowing everything. 5 years later, we randomly connect, and not only has his business grown, but it's almost doubled now. So staying involved in the market and understanding what options are going on, that's our job. That's what we're here to do. You know, finding the properties and showing you how to capitalize on those, that's what Chuck does. That's his area. Use the tools that you have to the best of your ability. You know, there is no such thing as a dumb question. You know, if you especially this is your first time, is you should jump on a call, spend 15-20 minutes going over as many questions as you can think of. We're going to bring up and give you talking points that you probably haven't thought of, and then that's how we start the dialogue. And then you can keep that dialogue moving throughout this this process, and I guarantee it, if you stick with it, you will end up with purchasing your first investment property, and you will end up with making a profit, and you will keep moving. You know, the old country song that says just buy dirt, it's a real thing. I am currently living in a house that I bought in 2009 during the last collapse. It was built brand new in 2007. It sold for $390,000 brand new. The guy who bought it, the market fell apart. I purchased it in 2009. He paid $389 for it. I paid $120,000 for it. The entire neighborhood walked away from their houses. We had a 68 or 70% foreclosure rating because, as you can imagine, if your property went less than half, lost less than more than half its value, is a lot of these people walked and they got foreclosed and they went. Well, because they never thought it was ever going to come back. They made a bad decision. They timed the market wrong. They lost all their money. Well, the reality of it is it's 2022, and those houses that they walked from are now worth well over $500,000. So they would have come back if they would have held on to them. So trying to time the market is almost impossible. When they say just buy dirt, it's a good saying. The more that the longer you can hold on to something, the more money it's going to make you.
Kyle, I'll add something to that real quick to your statement. And this is true over and over again. It's not so much, it's not that it's not important, but it's timing the market is in utopias, standards. Like if you could time it perfectly, great. But it's less about timing the market. And to your point with your house that you just mentioned, it's more about time in the market.
Right.
Get in when you can get in. Get in when lenders are lending money, they're offering creative financial solutions that allow you to get in the market with as little of your own money as possible in the game, while simultaneously generating passive income. You stay in the market. It's the time in the market, not timing the market, that's important. Sorry about that, but you prompted my memory.
100%.
That's the game. That's the reality.
That's where it is. And, ideally, if we all had a crystal ball, like life would be easy. We don't know. Nobody knows for sure where the market's going one day to the next. Everybody has that you can take, the data that you can take in and you can make an educated guess. But the reality of it is the time in the market is more important than timing it. It will always be that way. All right. On that note, Cam, I'm going to throw it back over to you.
All right, guys. Well, with that being said, thank you guys all for coming out. We're going to stick around for a little bit if anybody has any questions that they have for us. But outside of that, like I said, have a happy Thanksgiving, everyone. Hopefully we could get to talk to you all one-on-one. And if you guys didn't see it, I'm going to go ahead and throw it in there again. That is the link to the calculator that Charles was talking about. And like we said earlier, give us a shout. Book an appointment. You can get a copy of this whole presentation for your own keep. So if anybody else has any questions, you can stick around and give us any ideas you have. And otherwise, hopefully we talk to you soon.
And I would say everybody on here it is definitely worth the 15-minute phone call conversation. I would call Chuck and have him, go through that calculator. That will save you so much time. It is so much time.
Have a happy Thanksgiving, everybody.
Happy Thanksgiving, guys. Make
All
sure
right,
you
guys, take it easy.
turn the oil off before you drop the turkey in the pot. You guys have a great night.
All right, guys. Anybody still there? Charles, you still there? Kyle, you still there?
I'm still here, buddy.
All right, cool. Well, I'll check, see if we got any hits from this, and we'll be in touch. But thanks, guys. Enjoy the rest of your week. I'm sure you guys got a lot going on for Thanksgiving.
You do the same, my friend.
All right, take it easy.
Bye-bye.